So in Guardians, let's bring this up here, made a, look at that. That is a sick logo. Kubernetes penetration tool. So I am familiar with a Kube Hunter that Aqua's famous for, and it was that one written by a 18-year-old intern. Very good for that. But that Kube Hunter is more of an automation tool. It just runs through, almost looking for non-CIS based best practices that are to do with common misconfiguration, right? And it does. Kubernetes does a few things where it just tries to stick a finger in the wound every now and then to see if things are exploitable. So like man-in-the-middle attacks and such. But this is different. This reminded me a little bit more like a Kubernetes Metasploit, if that makes sense. And it talks about, it's got a good list of features. Let me just blow this up so you can see. Like reverse shell on a node. Okay, that sounds good. I'd like to be able to do that. Service accounts, token dumping, IAM credentials, transfer to another pod, allowing lateral movement. These are all things you can do manually, right? If you know how. If you're looking at, oh, I wonder if there's a KubeCon capture the flag again this year. There is. I think Andy's doing that too. This would be a good download for that. So this is the huge, how do I run it? You run it in a container running on Kubernetes. So essentially, if you're in the container, it's as if like if this container is vulnerable or has RBAC that is out the yin yang, then it will take advantage of that. And it gives you the attack context of that container only. Does that make sense?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So that's a little different. You can go download it from the releases page. I was happy that they had an ARM version, so I didn't have to go buy or rebuild myself. And so I kicked off a couple of things. So I've started doing. Actually, I can kind of take you through it a little bit. So this is my Pi cluster, and I'm in the Rook Ceph operator, and I realized, and I've also got Civo here, where I just kicked off an Nginx just to see what would happen. And then I also did a GKE. Oh, and I'm still sitting here in it, it looks like. Great. So we'll start with GKE. So I've got 3 flavors of Kubernetes that I've got running, right? And you can see when you start it, it's got a sexy Peiretes kind of thing going on there. Let me exit so you can see.
Very nice.
Let's see if this doesn't give away everything. So if you're wondering like how could I use this, you could make a script that just did what I did here, right? I'm just doing a apt-get update, install curl, use curl, go get this from the releases. You had to do, because the compression was this. That's not by default in most environments, the XZ. So you have to go get XZ utils, and then tar will work. Otherwise, tar throws a freaky error. And then you're good to go. So you can just run it, and then unlike an automated thing, it gives you like a menu, which is kind of neat. So let's go back to the top and just take a look at what it's done. Yes, all good tools have great ASCII art. Thank you. So it tells you the service count. If there's multiple service accounts, you can find out what they are. So it sort of enumerates the basics of what you would need out of the box. It tells you where your API server is. So you can go, great, in case I want to start poking at that. Gives you just the environment, tells you what namespace you're in. So you kind of know the context. But after that, I found it's very service account related.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you don't have if your default service account, which is just a bad practice, has more credential than it should, or the connected service account has more than it should, then this is awesome. And this is why I actually said it would be good for the capture the flag, because having watched the previous capture the flags, they almost always have a way of finding a service account that can allow you to. So one of the first things they do is go, all right, who am I and what can I do?
Yeah.
It has like an automated methods for doing all the things.
It runs all those checks and presents it to you.
And presents it. And see, normally you have to download kubectl. they've built kubectl into it.
Oh,
So if I just like do a 90, I can just type get pods -a. It won't work because I think the
interesting.
service account is no good. But it'll do a auth can. You can see it up here 92. And if it can't do it, then you can't do it. But you don't need, like, if I had to choose, if I was going to try and download kubectl, forget it. I would download this instead, because this is kubectl and it does all this other cool stuff, like the reverse shell. If I have netcat running somewhere, there's actually a really good video. Let me just jump over here, back here. If I reduce this down, there was, in their help, there was a little video where he showed how to do the reverse shell. But again, for the reverse shell even to work, you have to have a certain amount of privilege in the container, and you have to have a service account that lets you do things. What I liked about it, though, is that it seems to have a certain amount of knowledge of, if your service account sucks, which my default one does,
Yeah.
you can go, oh, all right, well, where am I? I'm on here. All right, well, I'm on GCP, so I just do that. And okay, so there's my service account credential. All right, cool. And I started adding other service account credentials via the console just to see what it did. And yeah, they all show up. So once you know what they all are, you can actually start doing API commands. Like, you can do all sorts of stuff. So that was good. I didn't get time to do an AWS one, but I like that you can see some of the ones. So it understands AWS metadata API, GCP metadata API, Kubernetes service accounts.
Basically, it's going to query the virtual machine for the metadata internally.
Yeah, that's what it's doing. And so this one was kind of cool. Store all the tokens found in it makes its own store, so you can jam all the tokens in.
Very cool.
Or it'll try and grab the token and store it. I actually disabled storage buckets so that it couldn't store it. But if it does have access to storage buckets, which a lot of service accounts would, it would just go bloop, and now you have them stored. And then when you go to list secrets, it'll just start showing you everything that you've got stored, and you can start poking and using all of them to do kind of whatever you want. The bad news for viewers is that things like vanilla Kubernetes, like K3s, were super locked down. I actually got nowhere with it. Like, it just, I went to Civo because we do a lot of stuff on Civo, and once again, nothing. I would have had to have intentionally and heavily moronically set up some bad things on here, like a really wide open service account. And then I thought, is that real? I don't know.
Yeah.
So then I went into here and thought, okay, good. Now I'm taking advantage of the fact that doing nothing and setting something up meant, oh, I got a little bit of access I could probably start to play with. But things you didn't even know you might want to do, like the compromise, like the run a token dummy command, that's not going to work. But the idea that all of these, have you ever played with Metasploit?
I haven't, no.
So Metasploit's like a pen testing tool, but it has some of the weird complex sequences of things you might want to do to exploit, like almost a lot of known exploits that you find in exploit DB just become plugin. They're just plugins. So rather than know how to do them all or remember them all, you just get a menu and you just do whatever you want to do, and you just keep checking things. And it just seems like that's it. That's what it does.
Yeah. Is it marketed as like hacking tools through a single pane?
A single pane of glass?
Yeah.
I don't think it is. It probably should be, though. And it's really new. Actually, if you poke around in it, you find all sorts of spelling mistakes. So if it's open source, you might want to go through and just, be a contributor, correct all the spelling mistakes.
For me, it's honestly just great as a list.
What should I do? It's just
auth can I like run a simple port check, see what's around, right? I mean, obviously it's doing it and it has all these plugins and kind of sets it up for you, but like exec via kubelet, like these are all paths for exploitation and just list it out for you, which is awesome. In a weird way, just reverse engineer it. Am I secure against all of these, right?
I wonder if I do this. Well, let me do this on the server. Will it find anything?
What's a CIDR formatted network? Okay.
Oh, I don't know. What's it going to be the default? Oh, okay. So it found the
443. Yeah.
API port. So that's cool. So that means it's got what? It's got Nmap kind of built in too.
Sounds like hey DSO.
Oh, yeah. So it's still going, or it's done. That was pretty fast, actually.
Yeah.
So it's like a little collection. I actually last KubeCon, I asked after, I think it was maybe during or after one of the capture the flags, is there an RTFM, like a red team field manual for that was more directed to Kubernetes, because that's more Linux and command line and Metasploit related. And I think it was Ian Coldwater wrote back and said, not yet, or something like that. And I went, okay, not yet. Like the sound of it, because I felt you could watch the capture the flags. And if you just took notes on everything you saw, you'd end up with a pretty good guide that isn't written down anywhere. That's a good question. I would say, is it extendable like Metasploit? I'm going to say no to like Metasploit, and yes to extendable, because it's all open source, right? You could just go there and add things, add new numbers to it.
Yeah.
So, but does it have plugin modules? Not that I saw, but that'd be an interesting
Port scan.
issue thing, feature request, right?
That's pretty cool.
I like how all the feature requests are actually created by the guy who wrote it. That's the guy, JBL, who wrote it. So you can see what's coming, actually. Yeah, this is good. New features, we can tell. And they're probably going to do them because he's the guy who wrote it.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I don't have like I didn't set up something that was so vulnerable that I could have demonstrated a reverse shell. But
nice.
I maybe will as a part 2. But I thought I would run through and see, like, and just give you a description of, okay, this is how it works. This is what it does. And I think you've got the idea, Scorpio. Like, it is a Metasploit menu of Kubernetes things. So I think it'll be fun to see. I think it'd be really fun to see if there's a CTF, like I did it last time. I might try this.